This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 485, recorded on April 8th, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here. Mike, I know we needed some rain, we wanted some rain, but you're getting some special rain.
I am literally getting rained on as we speak. If you see me flinch every once in a while, it's because I have a leak that was discovered last night. It just happened right now. That is into my basement. So I have buckets all over me and towels, and we'll see if hopefully a computer doesn't get hit while we're doing the show. If I short out and I get electrocuted, you'll know why. Because we are getting a ton of rain, and apparently a leak has been formed in the Wieger household.
It's just one of the worst, like those things, especially when they come in, they go down a wall, or they come in through a ceiling and they ruin the drywall, or they stain the drywall, right? I mean, that is just, we have been really, really fortunate here in this house that we've had very few roof leaks. I mean, we've had other things go wrong. Don't get me wrong, but the actually having those leaks to do that, because it's just, listen, nobody wants that partial drywall repair that you got to do and those kinds of things. It's just
I'm now looking forward to it. We have it in the ceiling because right above this is our main level, and on the ceiling of the main level, luckily not the wall, there is a big stain now. So I'll have to do some cutting and patching and spackling and painting, and that's going to be a really fun project.
I hate that more than anything.
There's just, and it's just one thing after another with home ownership. I love it. I love home ownership, but there is always something that goes wrong.
Well, and you're having quite a week, right? I mean, you got the fence fixed, but there's some other,
oven, fridge. I turned on the sprinkler system this past weekend, and the main line to that outside burst. So I had to turn that right back off. So I got to fix that pipe. Then I came down last night, and there's this. It's just, this is life. It's welcome
I'd love
to
to
life.
say when it rains, it pours.
Literally when it rains, it pours. It's as my arm gets another drip on it right now, as you said that. Yes, it's soon. Raining in my basement. So you might
need to get well, I appreciate your dedication. One, any other person would be like, I just can't podcast tonight. Like it's the house is dripping.
Well, I love of all places in my basement. Like I have an unfinished basement. The one place where I have all my technology. I have like 4 monitors, all my computers. This is where it's going to leak, of course, of all the places.
Well, if you need to get an umbrella.
Yeah, I might just stand here with an umbrella. It would be better than getting hammered with rain.
The audio listeners won't hear.
They won't even know. They won't see me flinch the whole time.
Andrew says, Jim, you're tempting fate by saying that. Well, Andrew, I don't believe in fate, so it doesn't. But he's probably right. We've been getting a ton of rain. Of course, it's that time of the year. It makes everything green. Mike, last year we had McCabe on 3 times. We talked about our lawns a lot. I'm taking a completely different approach this year. I'm completely ignoring it. So I'm going to, because I looked at my neighbor's lawn and it looked better. She does nothing. And then I looked at mine and I was like, it just looked average. And I'm like, I'm going to take the Connie approach and just see what do I have to go wrong?
Right. Do all your trees have leaves? I'm really worried. I have one tree in my yard that has no leaves yet. I'm like, I hope it didn't die.
No, it's still too early.
Okay. That's what I would hope.
Yeah. So no real lawn care. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on lawn care this year. We probably won't. We'll probably still do a lawn care show. But don't get me wrong, but we probably won't have that. Of course, what we will have is some pretty great show notes. Although for this show, maybe not a ton of them, but if you want to get access to them, you can head out to the AverageGuy.tv for all the shows /HGG and then the show number. So this one is 485. Big thanks, Mike, to all those, and they still continue to do it. If you want to jump in on Coinbase and kind of join the crypto revolution, that sounds super stupid. But if you want to join the crypto revolution, Coinbase is a great way to do it. And you can still jump in the AverageGuy.tv/Coinbase. After your first $100 purchase or trade, you get $10 and I get $10. And if you want to get that and do it that way, just check it out. Listen, this is not financial advice, but it is, Mike, it seems like, let's just have a little crypto discussion for a second because we have a little time tonight.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I argued with you. Maybe it was 2, maybe it was 3, that I thought this wasn't going to be a thing, and you kind of tried to convince me it was, and I stuck to it, and you sold everything, and
Yep.
it's gone pretty well for me, and you've done okay too with it. But it does feel like now maybe not all the altcoins are going to stay around, right? But man, this thing has lasted way longer than I thought. Don't you think? I mean,
Yeah,
I
well, and it's gotten to the point that you and I kept like we were hounding on the fact that once blockchain started to be using for other things, and just by taking those Coinbase quizzes, like it constantly because I'm a little bit out of the loop when it comes to keeping up to date on the bleeding edge of blockchain, right? Like what are they doing with this? I mean, they are doing some super cool stuff even with cryptocurrency, but the way they run the blockchain and you and I kind of talked about once we get away from everyone freaking out over the price of crypto, and we haven't gotten away from that yet, but they've been innovating on it, and that's I think the point we've gotten to is
yeah,
where there's
yeah,
so much and such it's been proven that it's
yeah,
becoming a lot bigger than I think even I thought, right? I didn't think it would hit 60 this soon. Even I was like, no way, right?
yeah,
Like that was a pipe dream, and all of a sudden, for some reason, we saw this run up, and it's been hovering right around that number, right? It goes between about
yeah,
54 and 60 for the past few weeks, and just
yeah,
sticks around there. And who knows what it's going to do?
right.
But just it's a wild time. It's fun. It keeps us on our toes. Just when we think it's over, it's not.
Well, Ethereum has been the big surprise in this because I think that's actually the viable if something's gonna carry on in the future and actually mean something. I mean, Bitcoin itself may be like gold, where you may own Bitcoin only to hold value, and you don't do it's not like you're buying gold to make jewelry out of it, right? You're buying it just to hold some value. It has value because people ascribe value to it. It in itself, like NFTs, don't have any value, right? They don't have any value. But because people ascribe value to it, because there are people willing to pay for it. If nobody wanted to buy your car, it would be worth nothing, even if it was a Lamborghini, right? But if
Yeah.
nobody wanted to buy it, it'd be worth 0, right?
Yep.
So, as we think about that, I think Bitcoin will be that kind of gold replacement. And maybe that's the wrong word because I don't think gold's going anywhere. But it will be like a gold where it holds value. And then they're really building a lot of stuff off Ethereum. And I'm hearing these things about Ethereum version 2 to make it even better. And we're going to have a major fork coming up at some point in time. So it seems like those two, anyways, are entrenched and aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, and I wish I had a good analogy for people who aren't like completely educated on Ethereum and Bitcoin and how they run. I wish I had a good analogy, but I don't. But just the Ethereum, the best way to think about it is like you can build really cool things around Ethereum with like smart contracts, and there's just so much more to that blockchain that people are building really cool services and products around. It's very different to me when I think about Ethereum versus Bitcoin. It's why I really have never paid attention to the price of Ethereum, because I think the value of Ethereum to me is different, right? It's the things that people can build on it, whereas Bitcoin is really just a store of value.
Yeah.
So but for example, we still need to fix the transaction fee.
Yeah.
Like I went, so I'm mining again. You guys know that I turned on NiceHash with the quick miner, and if you have a 6 gig or up card, it's still, just to let you know, it's still profitable. But for example, I had $60 that I've mined so far. I went to transfer that over to my Coinbase account, and it fluctuates between being 15 cents per transaction, which is like okay, right? Like 15 cents on a $60 transaction, still not ideal, but okay.
Yeah.
But right now it's $2.75. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to take $2.75 just to transfer this between two wallets. It's like handing cash from my bank to my wallet.
Your own
cash.
They're your own wallet.
Exactly.
Right?
It's equivalent to those ATM fees that we all hate paying when you go to get cash out from an ATM that's not linked to your bank. Same sort of thing. So there's a few things we still need to fix. And the fact that it still fluctuates so much on those transaction fees still doesn't make it a viable use for like every day. It's not going to replace Venmo. Because I'm like, once a crypto replaces something like Venmo for me, because me and my friends, me and Hannah even, every one of my friends, we all use Venmo or PayPal to like pay each other. I'm in a hockey team, and we all, for the tournaments, we all pay each other with Venmo. But we can't do that with crypto because number one, the transaction fees are crazy, and then pulling that out, there's a bunch of fees to pull that out into fiat. So it's not seamless yet, even though we've had a bunch of years to work on it. It's not great.
Yeah. No, I agree. I spent a bunch of money to convert, when I wanted to lock in some of this profit that came in, and I spent $70 to convert that. And it's like surge pricing on Uber.
It
And
is.
you're like, oh, maybe I'll just walk home drunk. I'm not going to pay the $50 ride across town, because it's surge pricing. So,
well, and Coinbase makes so much on the spread, right? Like if you look at the price on Coinbase versus the price in your other apps, like on the other markets, it's when it's a lot lower. So when you go to sell, you make a lot less. Well, they're making up that difference because then they can go and do that to a different market and make the difference. So, that's how these companies make money. I'm glad Coinbase is around because it's as frictionless as we can get today from getting fiat into crypto. But it's still not perfect yet. So, there's just so much work still to do. It's a fun time. I'm glad it reinvigorated us. We were bored there for a while with crypto.
it was
boring, right?
It was super boring. Yeah.
Until November. We still tell the story, guys, that I sold in November. And it was at 10,000, maybe 11,000 a coin, or 9,000, right around there, in November of last year, just a few months ago. And then 3 months later, it was up at 60,000, right? 6 times its value within a few months. So, it's wild, but I still love, my favorite, Jim, is all the self-proclaimed new cryptocurrency gods. They're like, if you missed it, like you were an idiot for not getting in. It's like, all the new ones who are just getting in now and they feel like a genius because they got in September and they're selling today. And, just everyone remember, when you see all those tweets and all those promotions and everything, a lot of those guys haven't been around since the beginning, like a lot of us have, and know what happens. There's going to be downs. There's going to be ups.
Yeah.
Don't expect this to be a wild ride.
I think if you're getting, because I hear from a lot of folks that are, new, all of a sudden they missed the last wave. They want to jump in on this wave, and they're like, should I buy a bunch? And I'm like, no. Like, if you're gonna do, you missed it. Okay, you missed it. Oh, but people are saying 250 for Bitcoin, and I'm like, well, okay, that might be true, but this isn't a time to go all in. If you're gonna do, and this is the mistake. The mistake I made back when we first had Edward on, was I should have been dollar cost averaging right then. So $50 a month,
agreed.
Whatever you can afford. If you want to get into this thing, let's do 25 or 50 or whatever you think is appropriate for your own budget, and let's just do it monthly. And if you have to be in it, let's do it that way. That's a great way, right in this market right now, a great way to get in and not get it handed to you.
Completely agree. Because what's going to happen is when this goes down to 40 or 30, like it inevitably will before it goes up again, you're going to be really glad, number one, you didn't put your whole, 20 grand in at 60 or whatever you're putting in. And so, because then you're going to go down in value, and then you're going to be super happy that you left some leftover in cash to put in at the low amount because you think it's going to go above 60. Obviously you're not going to put in if you don't think it's going to go up from 60, like don't put in money. So you think it's going to, but it's going to go down before then. So I agree. Dollar cost averaging is a great way to just slowly play this in. This does not need to be a make money quick thing.
No.
Just if you want to get in and have some fun and have your diversified portfolio, do it.
And not right now.
But do it smart.
Yes.
Do it smart.
Do not use your credit card.
God, no.
Do not borrow money to do this. Do not, this is not the time to get that done. But
although if you have student loans, drop out of college, go start your own business, and put all that money from your student loans into crypto and pay it back in a few months when it goes. No, I'm totally
my crypto may pay the student loans. I'm just going to be really clear about that.
I know. Yeah, it was a kind of a side of joke, but not really a joke.
No. Yeah. So anyways, some interesting. I was going to make one other point about that too on the crypto side. Oh, like the best decisions I've made, Mike, are the decisions I didn't make. Like I have literally done nothing in this run up. I did sell to lock in some profit, but that's all I've done in a year and a half. I just let it sit. I just let it ride. I was kind of thinking like, well, it's going to do its thing. And so that has been, the best strategy was to do nothing in this. So that's that piece has worked out for me. We'll see you. Tim is off. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but we'll see you, Tim. So yeah, I want to emphasize that just so much for folks that are listening. Like, just go with it. Mike, Burst has moved. Like, if you had, as an example, if you had mined Burst with us 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whenever we were doing that, and I think, I mined a bunch of it. Like, and for a long time, it just ran. I didn't even pay attention to it. It just ran, its hard drive space. I collected quite a bit of that stuff. It doubled the other day. Like, now it went from half a cent to a cent, but it doubled, right?
Right.
And I started thinking, I've done nothing with that. Now, it's a good thing I went out and scooped all that up and moved it into, out of those wallets and into a exchange wallet where I can kind of monitor it and keep track. Saya was the same way.
Yep.
Storage, which actually storage is a little different. There's been a run. Storage got listed on Coinbase last week and made a
lot
run.
of them have been adding lately.
And yeah, they've been. Well, I mean, Coinbase has all the incentive in the world right now. They're about ready to go public, right? So they're just doing everything they can. But Mike, I mean, you and I, that has been a coin. Storage is a coin we talked about. It sits in an Ethereum wallet somewhere where I'm actually having trouble. Like, it's there. I saw it, but moving it, I've got to actually buy some Ethereum so that I can pay to move it type deal. It's one of those. It's one again.
Yes.
Again, it's this weird crypto thing, right? That we have. But just think about that. I mean, this is Burst, Saya, and Storage. Those are coins we haven't talked about in 2 or 3 years. They've all been moving with this latest, listen, so Burst moved enough that what I have paid for the initial investment. So,
which is huge on those hard drives. Yeah.
I mean, that it paid for that. So now you're like, okay, that's 2 years later and whatever, but okay, but it's covered, right? It's paid for the most part in that. Well, it stay there. I don't know, who knows, but it's just interesting to not, again, that strategy of not doing anything. I haven't really done anything except consolidate those coins. And so if you've mined some in the past, if you had some, maybe if you did Burst with us, you might want to track those things down. You might want to get those wallets going and get them moved into an exchange somewhere. Bittrex is the exchange I've been using for Saya and Burst. That's about the only place you can do it at. So it may be time to fire up make sure, Mike, tons of people lost Bitcoin on hard drives that they gave up on it. They gave up on it. And they're like, this is never gonna. So anyways, make sure if you did that with us back in the day, make sure you're right now, before you forget and that hard drive goes bad, make sure you're moving that off, putting it somewhere.
Well, and there was one final thing, and as I was actually looking to make sure I had the right name of it as you were talking there. Nathaniel in chat brought up a good point, and he said when we were talking about dollar cost averaging, he said Coinbase has hefty fees for each buy-in, which add up over months, and that's true. But there's a workaround to that. So let's say that you are going to put in $1,000 into the market at some point, but you want to dollar cost average it. The way that I would do that if I'm using Coinbase is I would put my $1,000 into Coinbase. And I would put it into what was formerly called stable coin on there, but it's actually called USD coin, which stays with that at the dollar level. So it's going to be $1 as it goes across, right? But it's a cryptocurrency. So the benefit of this is once you put your money in, that's where that fee is. When you take a fiat currency and put it into crypto and Coinbase, that's where they charge you a fee. Then go in and you can use Coinbase Pro, and you can transfer between cryptos without a fee. So you can dollar cost average that $1,000. That's going to stay at 1,000. It's going to stay at your US dollar value. You can put in, $50 a month, and it's just essentially a conversion from USD coin over to whatever currency you're investing in, Bitcoin, for example. And there's no fee. So you paid the initial fee, but you're not paying that fee every single month to put that money in. So it's not going to add up a bunch. And so if you want to do that and you have all the cash you want to invest up front, and again, it's the same way you could always, if you need that money later, let's say, well, I might need that for an emergency. You can always pull it back out. Yeah, you're going to pay a fee again to pull it out. But it will save you on the month-to-month fee. So that's what those stable coins and USD coin are for. It's for getting your fiat in. And also, it's a good way if you're going to sell Bitcoin, just because you want to take some profits. But let's say you don't want to take that out into cash and pay the fee. Instead of pulling that and selling it on Coinbase for cash, use the Pro and exchange that for USD coin. And then it'll stay within the crypto realm. You're not paying fees on all that. So if you're kind of day trading, quote unquote, crypto, then day trading it by converting it into something like USD coin is a very cost efficient way to do that. And so Nathaniel asks, nice to know. And what's Coinbase Pro? So I believe, and I'm going to test this out, it's pro.coinbase.com. And if I would spell that right, Jim, do you know if that's still right?
I don't know.
It used to be right.
No.
Yeah, it is. So pro.coinbase.com is free. And people don't know about it, but it's a much better, more in-depth, detailed version of Coinbase. And it's essentially more of, if you guys have ever participated in one of these markets for crypto in the past, like Bittrex or anything like that, it's a full-blown market. The fees are a little bit different, so do some Google on the different fees, but usually it's a lot better. So whenever I'm on the computer, sadly, I do not think there is an app for this for the phone. But if you're on the computer, pro.coinbase.com, you log in with your same credentials. You can transfer money over from your main wallet to the Pro, and then that is where you're going to do all your exchanging between USD coin and whatever other coin you want to do.
This used to be GDAX, right?
Yes, formerly known as GDAX. Yep.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, and you could trade in those days. You could trade between those two platforms without fees.
Correct.
And listen, there are cheaper platforms than Coinbase. If you want to go, they're popping up all over the place. I haven't looked at any of them, but you might want to look into them before you send money to them. There are some that have a little cheaper fees, so you might want to look into that if you're price conscious. I think we're going to move, Mike, in the next 5 years. I feel like this is remember, well, you don't. In 2000, when we were day trading in 99 and 2000, when the market was super hot and you were like 4, the TD Ameritrade kind of came out of this, Schwab and those. I remember fees were like $7 or $8 a trade in those days, but it was the first time you could go online to trade. And then those fees got cheaper and cheaper. And then, at some point, it's pretty much free, right? I mean, you have to work hard to pay for a trade, right? At this point,
right.
It hasn't always been that way. I know you do this, but it has not always been that way.
Yeah.
I think in crypto, we're in the same, but I think as this market matures out, we're going to see a race to the bottom on fees. And you're going to start seeing companies start advertising, in this area, no fees. We're closer. I mean, they're going to go volume, and try and capture it that way.
Well, and they're going to do it off the spread, just like everyone, a lot of those brokerage firms do. They're going to make their money out, like the market movers, as they are called in the stock market, right? That's what Coinbase essentially is going to be. They're a market mover, and so they make those stuff happen, and they make their money off the margin.
Yeah. All right. Well, we didn't, that wasn't in the show notes, but it's actually, I mean, it's good timing, I think, to talk about this right now, because it's on everybody's mind. I mean, everybody's talking about it. The news on the race up to 60, the news was covering it almost daily. They've kind of gotten, well, and then it would dip, go to like 52, and they're like, Bitcoin is crashing. Okay, it's not crashing. Like, let's be really, really clear. And then the news folks get bored with it and they stop talking about it. I've kind of stopped seeing it in my news feeds for a while because it's gotten super stable. It's gotten really boring, right? And so it's been one of those things that's settled down. Mike, for those who are watching the video, you're showing that now. And what are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is the pro.coinbase.com. So I'll try and do a good job for audio listeners too. But essentially, you guys are all used to, if you've used Coinbase, the regular format. This, to me, when I'm looking at pro.coinbase.com, looks like one of the brokerage tools you would use for stock trading, right? It's more real time, tries to be. You're actually seeing the size of those transactions going across and the buy and the sell. and what people are willing to buy in the bid, I guess, the ask in the bid, if I can actually get my terminology correct. And you can switch back and forth between all of the different cryptocurrencies, and see the trade history, all that sort of stuff. So it's a really cool platform that I honestly don't know why they don't advertise more, the pro.coinbase.com. Like, I think they should actually just make this coinbase.com. I don't know why they haven't.
Wow, but it's
probably because it
nice.
looks a little bit more complex
Yeah.
than everything else.
The phone app for Coinbase is great for most people, right? It's
It
actually
is.
understandable.
It is.
You know?
And they make better fees on the regular Coinbase. I think that's why, right? So I think because it's weird, same company, same platform, but the fees are different whether you're trading here or on the regular app. So it's just pretty cool. So something I thought I would share with you guys and kind of show you generally what that's going to look like when you log in, which is I love it. I just like leaving stuff like this on my monitor because it looks really cool.
It does look cool.
You could leave that up and impress some friends when they come over and they think you're a day trader of crypto.
I wish I would have remembered that when I was selling that one time, because I probably paid more than I needed to. Maybe not. It wasn't, It's not
like I
said.
It's perfect for when you want to sell to realize profits, but you're going to keep that in crypto, right? I want to sell today because it's probably going to drop by 3,000 tomorrow. So I don't want to take that out into cash and then pay all the fees to get it back in. Just put it into USD coin or stable coin and then move it right back once the price goes to where I want it. So it's that day trader mentality.
And I moved mine to cash, so I think it would have been probably the same.
But you were probably going to keep it out in cash, right? You did,
I think
right?
so. No, it still is. It's sitting in cash in my Coinbase account, and it's like I'm just kind of waiting for a big. It's going to sit there until I decide to either pay a debt with it or reinvest it. Those are the two. Those are kind of the two options that I have in my own mind, and I may do neither, and I may try and sneak it into some of my retirement account stuff here if I don't need it for the future. But it's a nice little. It's sitting in a nice place that I can move quickly if all of a sudden, if Bitcoin moved back to 30, like, you better believe it's going right back in, right? I'm not even gonna probably dollar cost average in on something like that. So it gives me some choices, right? It just gives me choices. Options are nice in that case, and so it's going to sit there. So
and you guys, you mentioned retirement, Jim, and if any of you guys, if crypto is not your thing, just know that if you use a traditional wealth advisor, right? Options. So you guys all know I work for a wealth management firm. Just know that options are coming to make it extremely easy for crypto to be part of your overall portfolio with your advisor, and you never even have to touch a wallet. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to do this. It's just like, tell your advisor, hey, I want crypto to be a part of my portfolio. And there's all sorts of options now coming to the market for these advisors to be able to do that quickly, easily, and not have to worry about any of the wallets or anything like that, which is really cool. I love seeing all that type of technology. So even if you don't want to mess with it, it might still be an option for you if you're utilizing someone like a Charles Schwab or whatever wealth advisor you use.
Good tip on that pro.coinbase. I totally forgot about that. As you were doing, I'm like, wow, I've seen this before. That's the old GDAX, right?
Yep, it is.
They merged it in. So super cool. A couple weeks ago, we kind of opened up the rest of the show. We're gonna look for advice from you guys, I think. Just there. So we want to hear from you. By the way, if you want to call us, we'd love some feedback from you. If you've got a question for us or a comment, or you want to add something, head over to homegadgetgeeks.com, and in the bottom right hand corner is a little microphone. Just click it and leave us a 30-second message. And I just love for you to be able to do that. We'll play them right here on the show. But many of you engaged in the monitor discussion that I had. So, Mike, a couple weeks ago, I knew I needed to take my 34-inch ultra wide back to work, because that's, they let me bring it home, but it's not to keep. So I need to, start thinking about. So I started looking at various, and by the way, the ultra wide on the Mac, like it's made me a Mac believer again. Like it has been flawless. So whatever problems we were having, I think I mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago, it struggles with two monitors. The Mac Mini struggles with two. For whatever reason, I made it a single monitor and it's working great. So on the show 2 weeks ago, because I was in Texas last week, I mentioned this AOC monitor that I'd found at Office Max, Office Depot. They're the same thing now. And it had gone down to $219. and I missed it. We came on the show, we talked about it. I went to go buy it. It was out of stock. Do you use any of those reward programs like Honey or Slick Deals, Mike? The
I
coupon
don't.
services.
I think I don't shop at enough individual websites. I'm such just like an Amazon or brick and mortar guy, right? Like if I can't get
Yeah.
on Amazon, I just go to brick and mortar. Like I don't buy from bestbuy.com or shields.com or cabela's.com. Like I'll just go to those stores. So I'm either Amazon or go to the store. So I've never really found too much value in those, but I'm sure for people who do it, they're great.
Well, and me either, but Sammy, who Sammy will be home in a month. They're going to see her on Home Gadget Geeks a bunch over the summer. She's going to join us, which is going to be super fun. But she's kind of taken to Amazon being the evil empire that they are, and so she's every time I buy from them, she shames me. It's those kinds of things. So that doesn't mean I've stopped. Like, trust me, I still have plenty of things coming in from Amazon. But did you lose audio or something, Mike? You were looking.
No, I'm just getting wet. I
Oh,
have this
okay,
arm
sorry.
resting over here, and I was trying to find a new position to sit in where I'm not getting soaked over
I
here.
saw a funny face and I was like,
Nope.
oh, something go wrong. So, so I've been trying a variety of things, and with this monitor, because I found it at Office Depot, and I've been using the Honey plugin, and I don't know, it's another rewards card, and I'm not sure, 1,000 points gets you a $10 Amazon gift card or a variety of gift cards that are in there. I don't. Anyways, and there's also they do some coupon things. So you go to buy them, Honey runs through a bunch of coupons for you. Slick Deals has this by the way. If you're a Slick Deal person, you can sign up for the same coupon service. They're of course, they're making money because they're using affiliate relationships with all these services. I guess I could be doing that, but they're doing it as well. So I got an email on Tuesday from Honey that said, "Hey, that monitor that you were looking at, it's back on sale." Like I was like, "Oh, well, that's kind of cool." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was helpful. So I pop over there, and it's not, and I think it was 219. So this is a 34-inch ultra wide curved. It's 1080p, so it's 2560 by 1080, which is what I was looking for. It's what I wanted. A lot of folks, we had a lot of dialogue about why not just go 4K or why not go, and I'm like, no, that gets too small for me. And I'm just going to blow it back up anyways. And then using that kind of resolution is stupid, right? I'm blind. I'm old. I need big things on my screen, right? 1080 is perfect for me, right? So that's why, if you're wondering why I didn't go 4K on this thing, and it's super expensive. So they send me the email. I think 219 is what we were looking at. It was 199. And I was like, this is great. So I go over there, put it in my cart, think about it for a few minutes. I pinged you. You didn't ping me back. So I was
You
like,
pinged me?
I did. Yeah, I sent you a little note. Hey, this is down to 200 on
I do. I do see that now. You're right. I didn't respond to you. That's my bad.
That's okay. So I was all excited. So I pulled the trigger. I used PayPal, and I had some PayPal credit and some money sitting in a savings account. So I pick it up, and then the transaction just falls apart. Like, it's kind of pending on PayPal. I go to find it on officemax.com. It's not there. So I'm like, so I wait a day. I'm like, well, maybe they'll work it out overnight. So I wait a day, come back the next morning. It's still not there. So I call, but I have the order number. I have the email with the order number. So I ping them, I do instant messenger, right?
Yeah.
Chat. There we go.
Yeah. Chat support.
And I'm like, hey, what's this? Where is this? And they just give me the weirdest runaround. It was like, oh, oh, it's out of stock. Fine. So it took him about 15 minutes. Like, yeah, it's out of stock. I'm like, well, just cancel it. And they're like, well, we're gonna try to make this right for you, and just give us, just within 24 hours you'll hear back from us. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever.
Okay.
So the next morning they're like, I get an email. It's like, it's shipping. And again, it went from available to out of stock to shipping. And then they're like, it's shipping. It'll be there Friday. And it came today. Like, it couldn't. Yeah, I was like,
okay.
Yeah, no, it was the weirdest
from
transaction.
Disaster to actually pretty great.
Tuesday to not Wednesday, it being out of stock, to Wednesday afternoon saying we've shipped it to you. It's going to be there Friday. It's actually there Thursday afternoon. So, and I think it came local. It came like in a white truck that was like not marked. Yeah, it was
They like found one in the Omaha closed down Office Max. Like, hey, give this one to him.
exactly. Listen, it was the weirdest because like we're so used to these Amazon transactions now,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And it's it's the Amazon van that pulls up and the guy runs up, sets it on your porch, takes a picture, right? You have all this tracking that's associated with it. Trust me, Office Max, not so much, and not so good on the tracking. And listen, it turned out awesome. The fact, and it's sitting, the box is sitting right behind me. It came this afternoon, and I'm carrying it down the stairs, and I drop it. Like I have the handle, and the handle rips out, and it goes. Tim, my son, who we'll talk about here in a minute, he's like, hey, you gonna open it? Come on. He's like, oh, well, now you have to open it. Right. Fortunately, no, it's encased. I mean, it was really, really, really well packaged.
Yeah.
So like there's
sure nothing worse than it happened during shipping, right?
No, yeah, it had dents, and I mean it had dents from the white non-marked van that pulled up to deliver it, whatever. What I need to do is look at the camera, the security camera, the driveway one, to see. I haven't done that. I need to do it to look at this. Who was this guy? And anyway,
that's interesting.
So I was gonna leave it in the box for the show and just talk about it tonight, but Tim was like, well, you're gonna pull that thing out, right? So this afternoon we pulled it out, set it up, I measured it. It's exactly the same size as the Dell. So nothing changed there. It's exactly the same color as the Dell, like as far as the brightness and what it looked like. It's beautiful. Mike, at least today, I feel like it's the best $200 I spent. Like
I was gonna say, if it's that good, if it matched the color of the Dell and everything for $199, you said it's a 43 inch.
34
inch.
Yeah,
Okay,
34 inch across,
yeah,
32 wide. Here I'll show for those of you who are watching. We'll pull this up. Let's see if I can do this. Show it on screen. So this is, and it's not available anymore. So it must have meant, and it was $219. So the price has been fluctuating all over the place with it. So it must be where like they needed to get rid of it. And I'm sure this happens in retail.
Oh, it's a Lenovo.
No. Don't get fooled by the ad that's up there. It's an AOC.
Oh, that's an ad.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm looking over at the ad.
Don't be fooled by the ad.
Yeah, I was.
Doesn't telescope, only tilt adjustments. It's got a Visa mount, so if you wanted to put it on something,
yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't matter because if you would just put it on Visa if you wanted to.
Right. Great colors. It fits on my desk better because the Dell stand has a big, heavy, wide stand to it, which is really, really nice, but it takes up a lot of real estate on your desk. This just has these two little arms that come out, and I can kind of get more around it, so to speak. It doesn't telescope up like the other one did, but it's actually really a nice height for podcasting. So all in all, Mike,
that's a great $200 spend.
Yeah, it was.
I'd agree.
It was a good. So that was kind of luck that Honey picked that up and let me know, and then bought it. So hey, it's been in for 6 hours, so we'll need to spend a little bit of time with it. But I can't imagine. I mean, monitors are so commodity at this point. I can't imagine. Well, we'll just have to see. We'll have to.
That's fantastic.
We'll have to see how it goes. Tim said to me, because he's like, he saw it. You see it when the box came in, right? He saw it. He's
right.
Like, oh, well, how much was that? I said $200. He's like, he all of a sudden, he gets this really serious look on his face, like, and then he's like, oh, it's only 75 hertz. Oh, yeah. It's only 1080. And I'm like, well, but that was my use case, Tim.
Exactly. You're not a gamer. You don't care about hertz.
No.
At all.
I don't. Right? Now, they do make a version that's, 144 or whatever that is, and they make higher resolutions if you want them. They're $400, $500, $600, right? That's what you're going to pay for one anyways. So Mike, any additional, you at one point you were thinking maybe a widescreen was in your future. Well, now not with leaks, but Any other
Now at
thoughts
the
on
least.
that?
Luckily, I don't have a widescreen because it probably would have gotten soaked if it was any bigger than my current one. I thought about it a lot more, and I am such a dual monitor guy at least for doing stuff, and I would need to go over and in person see how someone games on one of those using only a portion of the screen, and then leaving a part of it for something else. So I'm just for me, I think even though the setup it doesn't look jank, it looks okay. But I have 4 monitors all in one arm though. They're all supported by one VESA arm that has 4 mounts on it, 3 across, 1 up. It just kind of works right now. I would love someday. This is what I decided, Jim. Once I can kick the kid out of the quote unquote nursery now, but it's really an office upstairs, and I can have a nice office upstairs that's like people see when they actually are in the house. That's when I want kind of that clean minimalist design. So as soon as I get a space upstairs where people actually see a nice office, that's when I would go to a really nice clean desk, a nice ultra wide, one monitor. And I would kind of, put everything else aside and kind of, because I don't stream anymore. I think I should just give up on that thing. Cause I'm like, oh, if I ever stream again, 4 monitors is great. And I just gotta say, Mike, you got kids now, man.
Never say never. You never know.
Yeah. It's already getting tough. Like their kids are now in soccer. Like, no, I forgot how sports they got practice and anyway. So no, I think I'm going to stick with what I have now until I get a nicer space that's on display, and that's when I'm going to go clean minimalist. Because that's what's driving me to want it. Is I want a clean minimalist design. I want something really sleek, no cables, one monitor, wireless keyboard, mouse. That looks really good. That is the opposite of what I have today. I have cables galore.
I do too.
Around here.
I do too. But I don't want minimalist. I want functional. Like I want it to be able, for me, I want real estate. I want screen space. Mike, if I could make this whole area monitors, now I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if they're different sizes or in different places. I just want real estate, and it doesn't have to look very good. In fact, I'm a little hodgepodgey. I kind of like I'm not a clean line slick. I kind of like used, like a old jacket, with the buttons missing.
Or just looks functional and and it's unique. And,
right. Used and loved kind of deal.
For YouTube fans, like the Casey Neistat, I don't know if everyone knows that reference. Like the Casey Neistat style, like his studio is exactly something, Jim, that you would just love. Like everything, it's just pegboard and all that stuff. It's just like it's all there and useful and I feel you.
A couple comments from the chat room. Joe had said same in reference to the van that showed up. Same van, white van that sells overstock speakers out of the front of Walmart. So that's it's very possible. Jim Shoemaker says only 1080. Sad. Well, we all make mistakes, and and Joe, you might be right. At some point, I may be wishing that I did. I don't know, Mike. Again, for the functional use case, for me, my eyes are so bad. Just to be honest, I not sure I could even see 4K if it was there in front of me. But I get it from that. Jim says if you want real estate, then why settle for 1080 vertical? I like this. Like I set, when I brought the Dell home, the Dell from work is exactly this, and I really like it. So everybody's got to kind of figure out their own thing, like what works for you. And I just find I had a lot of eye strain when I first came home. And when I started figuring out 1080 is what works for my eyes, changed everything.
And I'm not
everything. Yeah.
You say it's because you're old, Jim. I'm a 1080 guy. I do not own and I've said this before on the show, I don't own a single 4K thing in my home. Now my TVs, I would love to go 4K at some point, but these monitors, I am way more about I don't really notice a difference this close to a monitor at this size. Yeah, mine's only 27 inches, not 34, not 43. But at this close, I don't think I wouldn't notice the difference between 4K and for gaming. I want higher refresh rate. That matters to me more than higher resolution. Mm-hmm. So when you bump to 4K, like you need a really beefy graphics card to run 4K at high refresh rate, right? So I would much rather run at 1080, which I already like. It's cheaper for all my monitors. So this nice gaming monitor I have is 1080, 244 hertz. So more than enough, and it works, right? So for me, I'm with you, Jim. Like, I definitely, I'm not knocking 4K. I know a lot of people love it, but I think it's definitely just a taste thing of what looks best to you.
And Nathaniel makes a comment, 1440 is great, a little more height. And yes, yeah. that is true. The other thing that factors into this, Mike, is price point. And like now,
it's a big point.
Right now, 1080 is cheap.
Very cheap.
Ultra cheap.
I mean, 199, right, for a 34-inch monitor.
Cheap. And these were things, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, we were paying good money for that are now $200. You're kind of like, yeah, I'll take the older one. I'll take the older technology and not pay the cutting edge price, especially when it works so well for me. In this case, it actually it dropped because this monitor doesn't go up as high. It dropped it down. It actually is a better place to have my camera for now. It's for most people watching the video, you can't tell that it moved. I can, I can't tell that camera dropped just a little bit, and I actually like it. So, could I have done that on the Dell? I absolutely could, but I was forced to because this thing doesn't telescope. So I was like, oh, all right, well, that's where the camera is going to be. So, for me, so far, love the setup. I just love now down here. Now, it actually just replaced, right? Okay, let's just remind everybody. It replaced what I currently had here, but that it needed to go back to work. So it was one of those like, well, shoot, this is exactly what I want. What am I going to have to pay to replace it? The monitor, I mean, this AOC monitor is nearly the exact same specs as that Dell monitor that retailed at $700 just a year and a half ago.
Yep.
For $200. Now it's less because doesn't have some of the fancy features. It doesn't have all the plugins in it. It doesn't have the USB that monitor
doesn't have
has.
the name, right? It doesn't have Dell.
Have the Dell.
Right.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. Every other monitor on my desk is Dell, except this one now. So
yeah.
So anyways, appreciate you guys and your thoughts in the chat room, and appreciate all the just the help on that. It was just kind of nice. Mike, it was really, really nice to start thinking about it and not be in a hurry. I usually make those decisions too quickly to let this thing simmer for a couple weeks.
You saved $20 too, didn't you? Wasn't it $219 when you looked and $199 when you bought? So there you go.
It was $20, and that's not, it's just fun to get it at that price point with exactly what I was looking for. So, Mike, you're looking for some things as well, right? I mean, not just a non-leaky roof, but there's some other things you're looking to change as well, right?
Yeah, I need some advice from the community. I need some reason talked into me. And you guys feel free to do this in chat if you're live, or Discord or Twitter, or wherever you want to hit me up. But I've been bitten by, Jim, we talk about these cycles you go in, I want to do everything on my own, and I want all the computers, and then you want to simplify and you want to consolidate. And I'm in this consolidation phase. But right now the consolidation phase definitely is not, I do not want to get rid of Unraid, but I have this, I don't know why, but lately I've had this fear that I am self-hosting way too many things. And that if that one device goes down, even if the Ethernet cord went down to that thing, both Ethernet cords, I have redundant, but if something went wrong, right, with that Unraid box, for me, the main things that, Plex is whatever. I can get Plex stuff back. I do not care about Plex. I don't even back up Plex anywhere. I could care less. But for me, it's Nextcloud, which is all of the file storage for me and my wife. Everything, like I got her off of Dropbox, I got her off of Google Drive. Like, she is Nextcloud, and she loves it. Right, it's great. She can access the web page from anywhere, from any computer at work, whatever. She loves it. And then calendars and contacts are also in Nextcloud. So we don't use Apple, we don't use iCloud for contacts and calendars like most people do. We just sync there, because then if you need to access your calendar on the computer from work, yes, I know you can get to iCloud.com and things like that, but we just use Nextcloud for everything. And then Bitwarden is our password manager. And that's the one, honestly, I'm scared of most, because I have fully adopted the let Bitwarden generate a password for me. I do not know a single password anymore to any website. They are fully, first of all, I have 2-factor, and then I do also just a random, very long, complicated password that I let Bitwarden generate. So for me, I'm like, if this box goes down, I can't log into any of my services at all, because I do not know any of the passwords. Luckily, I do bifurcate. My two-factor is actually done through LastPass. So this is the other thing. I'm still paying premium LastPass, even though I use Bitwarden. So I actually use LastPass Authenticator for my two-factor because that has backup. If you guys don't know, that Google Authenticator app doesn't really have backup unless you're like, if your phone, if you don't do iCloud backup or anything, it's not really backed up to your Google account as far as I've found. It says it is, but on iOS it's weird. So LastPass Authenticator is backed up to LastPass, which is fantastic. But if that goes down, I'm out. Like I am totally out, and it's not just me; it's my wife. I am not worried about data loss. That's not my concern here because, I back up offsite. I send all the stuff to Backblaze. I have 2 parity drives in Unraid. So those, I can lose 2 drives. That's not the concern. The concern is the box, the motherboard cruds out on me, the CPU goes down. And, I just, right now, with everything else going on in life, I don't have an extra grand to throw at, building a whole new Unraid box for that. What I would likely do is say, well, Mike, you're without a gaming PC for a while. And I would just throw everything from this gaming PC in there and at least get that thing back up and running. And then just, use my Mac laptop and go from there and not be able to game for a while. But it's coming back. And as I think all through this, I'm like, why am I putting myself through all these mental hurdles and in backup plans when really, I could switch us over to, and this is where I need the community engagement. It's either number one, do I do this or do I stick with it? Right. Maybe I'm just kind of overthinking all this. And I think this is natural. We all go through this as self-hosters. And then number two, if you guys were, and this is so let's say I have to move. Let's just say I'm not going to self-host Nextcloud anymore. What are you guys using nowadays? Because I don't like the idea of using Google. Just because of the data stuff. I am still focused on privacy. That's why I use Bitwarden. That's why I use Nextcloud. I do like privacy. Apple is kind of my default. I do like OneDrive from Windows. That seems to work pretty well. I think my natural plan right now would be to go OneDrive, and then I would just go back to using Apple iCloud for contacts and calendars because my wife and I both use iPhones. So that just kind of makes sense. So yeah, I don't know, Jim, I don't know. What are your thoughts here? Cause I go back and forth all the time, and it's just one of those where you get into this stage where you start to fear. And I think it all stemmed from a podcast I listened to. They had someone who passed away in their tech group. And they said, luckily their friends in their tech group knew enough. And the guy had told all them, okay, here's my system. If something happens to me, come in. But Jim, you're probably that person to me. I could probably give Jim, here's a book of my stuff. If something happened to me, come over, Hannah, Hannah let you in and just help her out, understand where all this stuff is at. Right. But even there, you and I haven't had that conversation, and none of my other friends would know at all what to do with Nextcloud or anything like that. So it's just an interesting conversation to kind of get into.
We talk about this every other year or so on the show, is what happens when you die, and this is a variation of that. Right. And it gets me thinking, I had LastPass Premium set up so I could share it with Sarah, and then something happened and it went away, and then I've repurchased it. But we've never actually tested that. Can she get to my stuff? It's probably I have not written down my LastPass password somewhere. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, if that happens now, I mean, in theory, if say something happened tonight. Let's just hope nothing happens tonight. But if it does, I'm logged into all this stuff. So as long as she doesn't log out, right. But you know how those things happen. Maybe you're out of the house for a week or whatever, right? And you're in turmoil. So I definitely have some work to do. I get this oscillating back and forth. I live in a bunch of different worlds, so I don't. I have some data in Google and some. I think I have some things at Amazon, and I know I have some stuff in OneDrive, and I picked them for various reasons. I like some of the things that Google does with your pictures. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put all my pictures on Google. And then but OneDrive does some great things with documents. So, you're like, okay, I'll move these. So it's always, Mike, it's always a chore, man. And then if you move off Nextcloud, then you're gonna have to migrate all that data from Nextcloud, right?
Yeah.
There's some services that'll help you do that. We not own cloud. oh, what was the name of it? We used to talk about it all the time when I had the Know It guide for cloud storage. It'll come to me here in a little bit. So yeah, this is Mike. This is a great and this is one of those areas where you really have to. I think like me, a lot of folks that listen to this show are their kids are gone or they're older,
Yeah.
and they want to self-host. They've got the time. You're coming into sorry to say this, like
Oh, I'm
you,
already realizing it.
my friend, you're about to get really busy. You think you're busy now?
Yeah.
The, the high school years have these years have nothing on the high school years, right?
Right.
And then you get the kids in college, and it will quickly end. You'll now understand your parents when you went to college and they all of a sudden had a new life. They're like, oh, thank God, I never thought he was going to leave. So you're coming up on a busy time. I think all those feelings are correct, by the way. I think as you're thinking about this, it would be good to rethink some of those, especially the Bitwarden thing, to be like,
Yeah.
okay, what's the right solution to get that off so that I can sleep at night
Yeah.
from a box.
Even just using Bitwarden hosted through Bitwarden, right? Or I
Yeah,
would just go
yeah,
back
right
to
on.
LastPass.
Right.
And I think, Jim Shoemaker makes a good point. He was talking about security, right? So the thing that scares me about self-hosting is security. And I think my philosophy there has been a little bit different than everyone's. And I have subscribed to the theory of security through obscurity. And what I mean by that is, Google, Facebook, Apple, all those are such big attack vectors. Everyone is just slamming, trying to get into those. Not many people are going to be trying to slam my network, trying again, and especially the way that I do it, right? I'm not port forwarding. I use a reverse proxy, which means the only way you're getting into my Nextcloud instance is if you know my URL, which even if you found it, good for you. But every step I've gone there is like, if you've really tried that hard to focus on me, like good on you. But I think my odds of getting those sort of credentials hacked, things like that, are way higher if I'm hosting somewhere else. And I know that there are great counter arguments against that, and it's really an up in the air debate. But the way that I have done it, and using services that are trusted and proven, like Nextcloud, like security of Nextcloud is tested and it's used by enterprise, right? Bitwarden, same way, used by enterprise, tested. I'm not using like my own self-made little patched up little thing here, right? I only use services that are fully open source projects. And they're Dockerized, right? And I know there are security risks with Docker, but they're pretty minimal. Like to jump between Docker containers is extremely difficult, if not impossible right now. I'm sure there's an exploit out there. But as you talk about security, I think that's a good point to bring up. And I think people need to be aware of it, because I think a lot of people do just start opening up ports, and then a simple port scanner of my network would say, well, I bet he's using this service, this service, this service, because those are the ports that these apps use. So if I was doing it that way, I would totally agree. But, really the only port for me that's open is 443, which is SSL traffic through to my reverse proxy. And then my reverse proxy is based off the subdomain it's taken. It's sending it out to the right Docker container or server in my home to do it. So, I agree. Security, but that's another thing for me is the other side of that, though, which is a great point, is what if someone gets access to my LAN? Then they do have access, right? Like if they got my passwords. I do use VLANs, and I try to limit all my physical access ports around the house are not on my main VLAN and all that. I mean, I've done as much as you can do for a home environment. But, for me, the main concern is when that box goes down, like, dang it, like I can't even get into Facebook right now. I can't even get into my bank because I don't know any of my passwords. And again, it's not about data loss, because I feel like I would be able to get it back, but it's the cost of getting it back. It's the time.
Yeah, you can get those back. I mean, you can reset them, right? But it's just the time it takes to go in there and redo all that. Jim Shoemaker makes a good point. He says your emergency binder should cover all that stuff.
It should. I agree. That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I haven't made one. I had one in the past. It is so out of date. I think it's back when I was running like a 2-bay QNAP NAS. They're talking about the security in QNAP in the chat. Back when I was running that. So I probably need to make a new binder, have it there, have directions and say, if Jim's still around, call Jim. He'll be able to follow this
I'll be able to
binder.
help you.
If Jim's not around, my buddy Colin might be able to, he'd probably be able to get his way through if I had good enough instructions, right? So like it's that sort of thing, but really it's just kind of the time.
Yeah, I think I'm set up well enough as long as she could get into my LastPass account right now. Like, so I think if I had that LastPass password somewhere where she knew where it was at, but it's secure from that standpoint. And a paper version of it's pretty secure. Hidden away somewhere. I think she could work through it. Now I have a financial advisor who I've shared a lot of this information with. He knows what we have and where it's at. He can't get to it. Like, this is kind of the nice separation of responsibilities, right? He can't actually get to it or do anything with it, right? But he knows about it and he knows our plans. So Sarah could say, hey, here's what's happening. He knows my insurance. So he would be like, okay, here's what's coming. Here's what you need to do with it. I need you to do this. And then she can get in all the systems and authorize it right at that point. So I feel like we have a pretty good, if something were to happen to me tomorrow, we'd have a pretty good suck. It always does. Listen, no matter what you do, it still sucks for the people who are left behind, right? You can have the best laid plans out there. It's still terrible for them, right? And so, hopefully. And so, hopefully it's terrible for them. In my case, maybe they'll be like, woo, the monitor guy has left the planet.
He's out.
There's no more monitors left because Jim has them all. So I think, Mike, I think it's just a good discussion for us. I think once a year we kind of talk about this. Like, it's just a good idea to kind of, hey, is the plan up to date? Do people know what to do? Is it reasonably covered?
Is your fun worth the pain when something goes wrong? Because for me, let's be honest, for self-hosting, for everyone, it's for fun. For the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There are cost savings for me, to be perfectly honest. It's a lot cheaper with the amount of data I'm storing in Nextcloud. But actually probably not anymore, because a terabyte of space is now pretty cheap. And as I'm keeping Plex on here. So, Jim kind of nailed it in his next comment. He said, do you hear how complicated that sounds? If you're gone, your wife is sunk. And that's kind of part of my point is that, even with the emergency binder, like, if I go out, and the problem is it's not just my data, right? It's hers too. If it was, we can't get to Mike's documents, something happened to him. It's like, well, they don't even need to, like, who cares? So that's kind of the point, is it's her passwords. It's her, and she's, she uses her Nextcloud for all of her, she's a professor now. So, all of her school documents she keeps there, and she would be out of luck. Right.
Yeah.
Even if she was at the school and I updated my server for an hour, and she's like, I can't get to my stuff. Right. Like that's even the problem.
Yeah.
Cox internet goes out. It's residential internet that goes out, that can go out whenever you want. And we lose access to that.
But those things can happen in the cloud too. Microsoft had two.
They actually probably happen more in the cloud than they do at home. Yeah. My Cox internet never goes out.
Yeah.
So
Microsoft's had two major outages in the month of
Gosh, today was
March.
Teams was unusable today for us. I don't know if it was for you. Our Teams we couldn't even use it all day.
I didn't notice, but it's very possible. It's just, it kind of just depends, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no perfect. There's only, as Christian would say, reducing that attack vector.
Right.
There's no way to completely there's no way to completely plan for everything. You just can't.
No.
You can be more prepared. You can't plan for everything, but I think reducing the complexity is important.
Agreed. Security wise, I am 100% convinced my setup is far more secure than storing all this other places. Everyone has seen even iCloud, those iCloud accounts got hacked, and then all of a sudden your photos are out there, things like that. So, I'm fully convinced that I have a much less chance of getting my personal data out there with my setup than putting it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's the complexity. It's the, everything when it goes wrong. Or I just know, Jim, the motherboard, we've talked about this in my Unraid box. That motherboard is now, I think, almost 10 years old. That thing's going to crud out, and it's going to go down. and I'm going to be up a creek without a paddle.
Yes, it
So,
is. It is. And it's going to be the worst because it's always the worst possible
oh,
time.
I'll be out of town, and then I won't have access to my Bitward, and I'll be trying to log into my bank to transfer funds
Right.
when I'm out of the country, and I'm gonna be like, okay.
Nobody ever goes, oh, the hard drive crashed. Man, that was a great time for this to happen. I wasn't
Yeah.
depending on it for anything, right?
It was down. No one was using it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
exactly.
just sitting there. It wasn't really even that important.
So that brings me to back to my first question. I need your guys' guidance on just what are you guys using nowadays for cloud. Is Dropbox still? I loved Dropbox. It was pretty simple. What I don't like about Google is it tries to show everything in sheets and convert. I don't like that. So
yeah,
I don't like Google in general. So yeah, what are you guys using? Let me know. I think OneDrive is going to be my answer, just because it seems pretty easy.
Mike, let's take it to the Discord group. So go to the Discord, theaverageguy.tv/Discord.
Yep.
And just jump in. Oh, let's just do it in the general conversation. We get started there. If we need to move it, we can. But if you got some thoughts for Mike, drop that in there. Love to have some. Or just tell us what you're using. What have you decided to do? And give us a little breakdown on your setup. Theaverageguy.tv/Discord will get you there. So you heard it at the beginning of the show. My number 4 son is moving out tonight, and I don't know what kind of cold dad would say get out while I'm podcasting. He understands. I told him when he told me he was moving out a couple weeks ago on Thursday. He was planning. I said, I got a podcast, and he's like, yeah, that's no problem. I actually helped them move this afternoon. All the heavy stuff is all over there. So he was just coming home to pick up the cat and pick up his cat and move a few final things. Mike, as I was thinking about apartment living, like I have moved my kids in and out of dozens of apartments in the years. Again, by the way, we talked about, your kids being busy. You think, okay, so they graduate from high school, they go to college, and you think you get a reprieve. No, because they graduate, and then you got to help them kind of figure out what they're going to do, and then they still come back. So he's
grandkids.
Oh yeah,
can you watch my kids?
Which I love, by the way. I love being a grandfather. It's the best thing ever. I just had the best time this weekend with my grandkids. But and everybody says that, so it's nothing new. But as Tim's moving into the apartment, I was kind of thinking, and you lived in a dorm. We can add. Right. What are the 3 essentials if you're thinking about gadgetry at a minimum, right?
Okay.
In an apartment, right? And let's rule out the router, because you got to have, you got to get a modem and a router if you're going to have any internet, right? But if you could only pick 3 technology gadgets to have, that's all you could have in an apartment. Like you can't have I won't say what you can't have. What are your priorities? Like what are your priorities for gadgets moving in? What do you think? What are the have to haves?
Okay, the first one's not a gadget, but it was a have to have for me just because we moved around a lot and not every place you had access to a grill and a balcony, and there's all these rules. A George Foreman was like my favorite thing that I had all throughout dorms, apartments. That George Foreman grill is just like, it can do everything. It can be a panini press. It can grill steaks. So like that was my first thing that came to mind, which is like, that was my favorite thing that plugged into a wall.
It's a good cooking. It's a good universal cooking gadget, so to speak.
It is,
right? Yeah. Can do a lot of things.
It can, and I literally just use mine today. Like I still use it in my house. Like I think it's been the same thing I have had since I was in the dorms. So.
Tim goes, Dad, I got this pot. He was super proud of himself. He's like, I got this pot, and it had a steamer hole on the top, and then if you lift the lid and turn it, it has the holes so you can drain. You don't even need to take the lid out. You just pop the lid a little bit, and it's got the drain holes to.
Oh, nice! It's like a strainer almost. Yeah,
it was a strainer built right into the lid. He was super happy that he had found it. He found it himself at Target. He was like, Dad, this is an all-in-one. Like, I don't need any other pots and pans. I'm like, whoa. Slow down, Gordon Ramsay. Like, there'll be other things. But, okay. So Foreman grill.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say an outdoor grill, because that's what I would have thought too.
But there's so many rules and regs around the size of tank. And the size of tank is it drove me nuts. Yeah. The other thing is, however you want to do it, there's a bunch of ways to get this done. I liked having some sort of way to know that someone had been in my apartment, because in apartments, maintenance is coming in, the people are coming in to do things that when you're gone, they don't have to tell you. So whether that's a door sensor through a security system, which I think is way overkill, whether that's a Ring doorbell, we had a doorbell on our thing because our bedroom was way in the back and you couldn't necessarily hear someone knocking. And what we were always worried about is maintenance knocks. We're taking a shower, we're naked or something, and they walk right in, right? So we actually had just a regular cheap $10 wireless doorbell. So some way to know that someone's there. And I think a security camera now are very cheap. Those weren't cheap back in the day.
Yeah.
But I think you could easily get a really cheap, get a
Like
Wise
an indoor,
cam.
like an indoor Wise cam.
Indoor,
right?
just Wi-Fi Wise cam or something.
Or
Something
even
where when
rings
you're
are like
gone, you
60
could check.
bucks. Yeah.
However you want to do that. I think
Right.
that is key. I do like that.
Yeah. All right. That's two.
That's two.
What do you think? What's your third gadget can't live without?
Oh, I mean, are we just assuming that everyone has like the
Let's say you have a
A-Lady
computer.
or Google?
Well, no. I mean, do you set up? Do you set up a voice assistant in an apartment? Do you think that's
the thing I loved about the apartment life is that usually there was some spot centrally located where if you had a good speaker, you could hear it pretty well everywhere, right? It's a small enough place. So that was somewhere like that when we lived in an apartment gym when the first gen, and I still use my first gen A-Lady upstairs, and that was a nice one, right? The tall cylindrical version, had a nice speaker. So I would invest in whichever one has the best speaker right now. Like I think Google has a big one that has a big speaker on it. Amazon does too. I would get whichever one has the nicest speaker and let it serve as your music player because I think music in an apartment's key. But also have the ability to have some smarts, and then of course because that gives you the ability to add on lights when you need to, and all that other smart stuff.
Those are three really good suggestions. There's some in the chat room. Jim Shoemaker says microwave oven. Not all places come with a microwave. Apartments, if you get a really, really cheap apartment, his he can't hit the jackpot. He got a pretty good price on this thing. It's got a washer and dryer and a microwave and a dishwasher and a really nice kitchen. I mean, I may hang out at his place from time.
Nice.
I just maybe when Sammy comes home. So we're kidless for 3 weeks, and then Sammy's home here in 3 weeks, but she's bringing a fridge. She has a college fridge, and I'll probably take it to Tim's and we'll turn it into the beer fridge. So that is probably for this guy. That'll be my beer fridge over at his place. Brian says voice assistant. So yeah, Mike, I think I love your idea of finding one that has great sound because his apartment is literally just square and it's
exactly.
And the doors, if the doors are open and that thing's playing, it really fills the whole apartment with sound.
Yeah.
So love that idea. Nathaniel says extension cord, power strip, and a fan. Never enough outlets. Yeah, he's doing okay there. But Mike.
Well, that made me think of actually the one thing I loved having in the apartment, and he might too, because he's a computer
he is
kind of
very
gamer,
savvy.
right?
Very savvy.
And kind of likes to have power line adapters in apartments are awesome because you cannot, you can't be installing Ethernet in your walls unless he lives in a very, very new apartment. He doesn't have Ethernet run. I use Powerline in my apartment because I had that full server rack in my apartment. But I used Powerline to get over to my main computer because I couldn't run Ethernet all the way through the apartment. And it worked great. And now Powerline has gotten good enough that it works well. So I would say Powerline adapters make a huge difference, especially if he has a main machine that he can't have, because in the apartments, they tell you where you need your router. It's like, well, this is the one plug you can plug into where this is where your router goes. And it's always never where you're going to have your main computer.
No, it's not in the center. In this case, it's not in the center.
Right.
And so he bought a pretty nice Asus Wi-Fi router, Wi-Fi 6, and it's pretty nice. I told him, I said, hey, the cheap ones, the more, like I learned this, the more devices you put them on, the hotter that chip gets, the shorter things last. I have burned through so many cheap wireless routers just because we put so much on them, right? And they're not vented well, they're not cooled well, they're put together for like a nickel, and so I said spend a little bit of money, so he picked that up. Ron says for him an Instapot, and to your George Foreman, that's an Instapot. I mean, there's a lot you can do in an apartment, and some of the new, I think some of the newer ones, it's as well as Joe saying an air fryer. I think some of the newer ones have some smarts built into them. Like it seems
Nice.
like more and more of those kinds of things are picking up an app or Wi-Fi connectivity
Right.
or kind of what have you. I'll be, I'll be honest here. I've been thinking like my next range needs to have an app because I want to fire that thing up. Like I want to go to the HelloFresh site, see what I'm having tonight, and it'll tell me set the oven to 425. Right. I want to
Yeah.
set it from down here. Like I want to go on the app and go boom, boom, boom. The other thing I want to do is I've been brewing my own coffee. I've been perking my own coffee, and that requires 8 minutes and 30 seconds of heating the water up. It's every time. I got this thing down to a science. 8:30 on high. It burps a couple times, and you turn that thing to low, and I tell a lady 4 minutes, then turn it off. Then it's perfect. It's a perfect brew every time. That should be an if this then that thing, right? Where it's like, okay, this is done, then do this. Automatically turn it down. Like that should be a routine I should be able to run right on my stove. Can we do that? Are there stoves
So you
doing that?
you can, yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually, I was gonna say, it's kind of funny. We were trying to find one without that because it was one of those like, do you remember when like all
Right.
the smart TVs came out? Like, no, I don't. I want a dumb TV because I'm gonna
Yeah.
use something external or something like that. And so because we're obviously replacing our range right now, and then they do have that. I don't know how well they work. I just the idea of something being able to turn on heat in my house that could cause a fire
Mm,
doesn't sit well with me. Or the idea of Hannah or I doing it with good intentions. If I'm going to start the thing and
right.
I've been home and I have some stuff sitting on the oven, just not because we
Right.
constantly have stuff with
Right.
the kids throw their papers up there.
Totally.
And if you can't see it, you shouldn't be turning the oven on, in my opinion. And that's probably because I have kids. If
But
I
so
had
it
two
just needs a
trusting
camera.
adults,
It needs a
yeah.
camera
Oh,
on it,
there we go. Get a camera on it,
right?
check, make sure nothing's there,
It's
and then turn it on.
the oven view, you could just
Yeah.
it would be I don't know. Yeah, or like yeah, it's like your backup cam. If you're going to turn the oven on remotely, it automatically turns on the oven cam so you can see maybe both what's on the top and in the oven. I don't
Yeah.
know how that would work because I don't know how many times I've left pans in the oven, you
Same.
know?
Oh yeah. 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 Well,
You
and
know?
I'm still wondering. I still want, and I don't know why. Okay, so like we have like the glass top range, right? Where you turn it on, turn it off, but this glass top, and when it's heating up, it's a really big bright red circle.
Right.
I want that bright red circle to stay bright red while that thing's even just the slightest bit hot. But as soon as it stops heating up, that thing is still burning hot, and there's that little
Good.
red light in the corner that no one ever sees. That says there's still
Uh-huh.
a hot surface here. I'm like, no, leave the whole thing lit up so that
Yes.
I'm coming back after Hannah's cooked dinner and I'm coming to do stuff. And I don't lay my arm right on that thing because I have done that a ton.
Even if it's a fake light,
I
like,
grabbed my cast iron skillet this weekend and there's a pretty good burn right there. So
oh, yeah.
that the burning thing is just, I don't know.
That sizzle, that
Ooh, it
sizzle that
sizzled.
you hear, and
Yep.
then the pain kicks in, and it
Yep.
doesn't hurt right. Like a burn doesn't hurt right away, like really bad. I mean, it's a sharp kind of like you've gotten poked, but the real pain is yet to come, right?
Well, and my problem is, so I
Mm.
had a heat pad and I had grabbed the handle of the cast iron. It was on my grill outside and I'd gone to move it and I had moved away. But in that time, your brain hasn't realized. And I had missed part of the thing wasn't covering. And this is where it lay just right on the handle
Mm,
on my
mm,
palm. But
mm.
I was already away from the grill. And then my brain realized it. And I'm like, I kind of freaked. Like I didn't know to
Yeah,
drop it. So I reached across, set it back down. And that was
yeah.
even just more time that hot cast iron
Oh,
is just and it was a pretty good bubble there
oh,
for it still is a bubble. It
oh,
popped last night at hockey, and that was not fun.
oh, oh, yeah. It's disgusting. That's
Yeah.
disgusting. But it is one of those. It is one of those things I've noticed too because we have the glass top, and it comes on and then it goes off, and then it comes on and then it goes off, and then it comes on.
Yeah.
Even if that light was just a fake red light, like it wasn't heat, because
That's what I want.
we know
Exactly. A
why
fake
they
red
do
light.
it, right? We know
Yeah.
why it does that,
Yeah.
but just put a fake red light on there so it
Exactly.
looks like it's okay. Don't
It's hot.
touch that. Don't touch that spot.
100%. Yes.
I think Jim says, your favorite Keurig or your favorite coffee maker.
Of course.
And this is one thing, Tim learned while he was here over the last, because he came home in September, I think, August, September. So he's been here about 6 months, which, by the way, is fantastic to have him home. Like I told him today, I said, she was going out. We're going to see a ton of them. So it's not like we're not going to see him for 5 years, like when he joined the Marines, right?
Right.
He's just living across town, not even across town. It's just 8 minutes away. But I said to him, it's been great having you here. But he learned to drink coffee with me. So he started, I'm brewing this coffee and he's like, hey, can I have a little? Can I have a cup? Can I fill up my mug? Can I put it in it just kept getting, and over the last 2 weeks, he's beat me to making coffee. So he's gotten up, he's in school now. So he's been getting up early and he gets the coffee going before I do, which Sarah's like, you're going to miss that. And I'm like, no. Let's be really, really clear. I really like making coffee. That's my any guy who says I keep it on the thing for 8 minutes and 30 seconds. And then I turn right.
You enjoy the process.
I do enjoy the process. So,
yeah.
It was just fun to kind of watch him because he was here. This was my, maybe one of my first. Yeah, it's really one of the first kids I've had that have launched into their own apartment directly from here. I've had kids leave to go live with other people in their house and then transition to their own apartment. But fun to see what his priorities were, and he's a PC gamer, so he doesn't care about console. He has, although when he was in the Marines, he bought himself a big 50-inch TV. This 50-inch TV he bought sat in his room the entire time he was in the Marines. Well, not the last year, maybe, because he brought it home. We never used it. We never, he was like, hey, you guys can use this anytime you want. I went in and unplugged it because it was showing up on the network. And who wouldn't? It's bigger than, we have a 42-inch out. It's bigger than our TV.
You just put it in your living room.
It's nice. I should have made a fucking monitor out of it.
That's what you should have done. Agreed.
Well, we just let it sit in the room.
50-inch ultrawide.
Exactly. He's going to set it up in a certain way, and it'll be fun to go in the next week or two. We're going to, maybe even Sunday. I think we're going to take dinner over to his place on Sunday. And see what his priorities are. What are the gadgets that you kind of start, he's starting to kind of lean on. And it's what makes this show so much fun. Just thinking about, I never get sick of talking about these things.
No,
No, it's just a ton of fun. We're going to do a little bit of post show and we're going to bring in a little bit of a topic that you, Mike, me, and Dave McCabe have been talking about.
Oh, nice.
It's not lawn care. All right.
No, it's not.
If you want to catch the post show, you can catch it on our live page. If you're listening to the recorded version of this or the podcast version, and you want to catch the post show to get kind of caught up on that, you can do it one of a couple ways. One, you can go to the Average Guy TV YouTube page that we have. It's always there if you want to get there. You can subscribe to us on Patreon. If you want to do it, you'll get a note from me every single week. That's by far the most convenient way to get both the pre and the post show. When you get the whole thing, just follow us and subscribe on Patreon. It's I have $5 plans that are out there a month. We appreciate you doing that. I'm running on YouTube. I'm running the listed names of everybody who does that, and we appreciate you guys. You'll get an email from me every week with a link to it. It's certainly the convenient way to get it done. I guess those are the two ways to get it done. So you can do it that way. So hang tight for that. A couple reminders on the way out. One is, don't forget theaverageguy.tv, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and trust. Of course, that's Christian. And so you can get it maplegrovepartners.com. Plans start as little as $10. I don't know, Mike, maybe with the complexity of things, maybe Christian's got a solution for you in at Maple Grove Partners. Maybe it's worth touching base.
That is actually a really good idea.
Yeah, because that dude's a wizard.
Dude, can I Dockerize Nextcloud on your
something?
Yeah.
something, right?
Well, at that point, that's the other. Oh man, there's such a rabbit hole there. I would just self-host on like Linode,
right.
right? Like spin up a Linode, that's our account, which is essentially like an all SSD based and cheaper version of AWS, and just host it there. And then that eliminates a lot of. But it doesn't really, right? Like I would need Christian to fully control it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you run a Nextcloud instance for
and
me?
offer it, right? He would be. It might be worth the conversation though, right?
Yeah,
just
be.
to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right? What do you think? So, if you need a server, you need some services along those lines. MapleGrovePartners.com. Of course, we always appreciate Christian and his partnership with the network. If you want to join us on Discord, theaverageguy.tv/Discord, don't forget to leave those messages, homegadgetgeeks.com. Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you, or you can send me an email. It's the super boring way, but I know some of you do it. Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Find me on Twitter at jcollison. Find Wieger at WiegerTech on Twitter if you want to do it. Really, most of the conversation goes on in Discord, so we'd love to have you join us there. We are live every Thursday. Let's say most Thursdays. I took last Thursday off. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Texas in the post show as well. My trip there, Mike, was pretty cool. A few things I learned while we're there. We're live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv live. Next week, Cody Wheat is coming back. Cody is our friend in the liquor and alcohol business. And if there was ever an industry that had saw massive changes in both distribution and technology during COVID, it was alcohol, right? And so Cody's going to come back. Cody's a good friend, and I just want to catch up with him. We're going to kind of ask him. His podcast, Shots of History, is super cool. And if you're into that at all, and it's not drinking like the way you think it is. So give Cody a listen. Shots of History this week. He'll be on next week, and will join us live for that program. If you want to stay around for some post show, Mike and I are going to talk a little bit. It's not lawn care. We'll see you guys next week. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.